All right, so today we are working on Scud Run. That is a small creek that flows across our property. It's intermittent, and eventually into Alum Creek, which is a major river here in Ohio. So we are in the Alum Creek watershed, and we've done videos on this intermittent creek several times over the years, and that's because it's such an important piece of all landscapes. Water is such a big deal. And when we got here, this had just been scoured out, straightened, and water just poured through here real fast and it wouldn't stay. And so Steve started doing check dams a number of years ago, and we've recently come up with a whole bunch of new material because we're deconstructing old garden beds, and so we have all these boards to use up. So the ones that aren't being added to brush piles and that are perfect for check dams we're using here. And I wanted to show you this first because this is a new check dam he did a couple weeks ago, and it's created a very deep pool as far as this creek goes. So let's go a little closer. Look down in there. Oh, and isn't it beautiful? Look at the reflection on the water. Oh my gosh. So there's rocks in there and leaves and all sorts of habitat for different macroinvertebrates, insects that live in water. Scuds are one of them, which is why we've named this Scud Run. This isn't super pristine yet, so we're not having some of the macroinvertebrates that you might have when you have really clean water or less siltation. That's just the deposits of soil from upstream, and we've had a lot of that from across the road from our neighbors as they did some work and left soil exposed, and then it all rushed into here. And so we're working on fixing all of those things here, and they've fixed it on their end. And so it's always important to remember that that's a major piece of pollution for rivers. Soil moving around sometimes is good. Big dumps of it often is not. So look at that deep pool. You can see he did it by a board right there. He dug it into the soil. Look at that change. And then we're getting water movement out. And then the water keeps moving westward through that field, which again is not ours, and then we'll eventually curve and head south. Now let's look upstream. We are very near the top of our watershed here, and also very near the headwaters of Alum Creek. I would say the best thing to do to have this stuff make any sense, at least what's helped me the best and Steve, is look at some maps. You can get watershed maps and river maps from DNR, wherever you are, or other water organizations, and when you start piecing together the puzzle of watersheds, it gets super exciting because you see the connectivity of the land and the way one thing affects another thing, and you just get really inspired to do stuff. So we're coming up here where Steve's working on some more. See all of our boards? Y'all, we have moved so many of these logs around and these boards around so many times. So we're thinking we're getting close to the end of redoing things. Maybe. But to get these to stay, he actually is digging into the soil. And it's tough work, but doable work. He's just got some water boots on, and he'll get his hands wet and cold and muddy, but you can handle it, can't you? Your face is covered.
Keeps you young, and research shows if you ingest soil, it'll help your gut flora.
Gut flora, it's all the rage. We all know that. So just go.
It's free.
Yes. Go do some creek restoration, ingest soil, and your gut flora will blossom in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. Okay, so anything I missed here that you want to share?
No, other than, I mean, you know, you can make this more complicated, but all we're using is a people call this a Madak, I guess, or a McLeod in the fire world, but a little pick thing to cut a slot across the cross section of your creek, so that when you place this board or log in there, the bottom of the log or board is relatively level. Because if you have because water's going to want to go under it, so I'm trying to get this placed so it seals the bottom of the board with the bottom of the creek, so that it'll be an adequate dam of sorts. And then we'll pack this soil behind it. And then if it escapes around the sides, we can put some gravel and stuff and rectify it. Our creek is small enough, and as Jennifer said, we're near the top of the watershed, so we don't have a torrent of water to deal with. So if you're near the bottom of the watershed or you're in a bigger watershed, beware. What we're doing is okay for our property because we want to do it, and it's also not a project that's going to back water up in the neighbor's basement or onto the road, because we're near the top of the watershed and it's a small intermittent creek. Now, it is becoming more and more perennial or year-round as we continue to improve not only the retention of the water, but also the vegetation in the creek itself. So this thing could actually end up being perennial or run year-round, which would be awesome. But anything we can do to extend the period that water is in the creek, and then it's going to help the critters and allow the water to soak into the soil instead of run off into a torrent somewhere downstream, and it's just good for hydrology.
Awesome. Well, this seems pretty exciting to me. I'm already excited just to see Scuds in here.
Yeah, Scud Run.
Okay, everybody, get to work on your own. And remember, check out those maps. It's exciting.